Welcome, scholars, to today's 5th grade reading lesson. Let's get started. All right, scholars, before we get started today, let's make sure we have all of our materials ready so we are set up for success. The first thing you'll need today is your reading textbook. The next thing you'll need is your reader's journal. You'll need your response sheet. And as always, a pen or a pencil, your favorite writing utensil. Now, once you have your materials, I want you to repeat after me. I am ready to learn when my mic is off until it is my turn to speak. I am ready to learn when my materials are in my learning space. I am ready to learn when I do not take pictures or record during the meetings. I promise TikTok will be there later. And I am ready to learn when I will respect my classmates and I will respect my learning time. So we have our things, we've set our norms. Let's get started. When I'm reading, what should I do when I see an unfamiliar word? Take a moment and look at the following anchor chart. You'll see that there are different types of context clues. Those include word parts, meaning you should look for clues inside the unfamiliar word. Word parts can give you clues as to what the word means. Another type of context clue is an example. Examples will have signal words like such as, for instance, or for example. Next, you have definitions. There might be other words in the sentence that provide a definition, either directly stated and signaled by a word or punctuation mark, or you might have to make an inference. You also have visuals with labels, which means that sometimes these pictures with labels can help us to determine the meaning of unknown words. Next, you have synonyms, which are words that have the same meaning. And last but not least, you have the opposite, antonyms, which means the opposite meaning of a word. Now, let's use your knowledge of context clues to determine the meaning of the word in bold. Members of the elite special forces of the military have to undergo special training. In this sentence, if the unknown word is elite, what words in the sentence give us clues about its meaning? Well, for starters, I see the word special 2 times. Special forces and special training. So that clues me in that elite is related to something special. In this sentence, the other words or context clues tell me that elite is related to a special type of training that not every member of the military receives. Let's look at a second sentence. Athletes on elite teams have a high level of skill and must devote a lot of time to staying fit. In this sentence, what words in this sentence give you clues about the meaning of the word elite? Well, in our second sentence, the other words tell us that elite is related to a high level of skill that takes a lot of time. Based on what we've discussed, how do context clues in a sentence help us to understand the meaning of the sentence as a whole? Remember, context clues in a sentence can help us understand the meaning of any unknown words so that we more clearly understand what the author is trying to say. Let's check out our new vocabulary words for this week. Let's look at our first vocabulary word for this week. Notice it's broken up into 3 syllables. So show me 3 fingers. And let's sound it out. Maneuver. 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 Wonderful. Maneuver is a verb. It's an action, which means to move. In the Special Olympics, competitors are able to maneuver their wheelchairs in a variety of ways. Maneuver. Now, in your reading journals, I want you to write your own sentence using the word maneuver. Our next vocabulary word for this week is broken up into 3 syllables. So show me your 3 fingers. And let's sound it out. Specialized. 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 Wonderful. Specialized is also a verb. And if a company specializes in something, that means it provides a specific type of product. Specialized. My father used a company that specialized in making wheelchairs. A synonym for specialized means to do something really good, like it's well known. Now, using your knowledge of specialized in your journal, I want you to come up with a sentence of your own using the word specialized. Our next vocabulary word has just 2 syllables, so show me 2 fingers. And let's sound it out. Elite. 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 Wonderful. An elite means adjective. Elite members of a group are those who are the best or most skilled. Think about our work on the previous slides with our context clues. Does that sound like elite to you? It sure is. I have a picture of what looks like an athlete jumping over a bar. I'm going to look at my sentence. The most elite athletes are invited to compete in the Olympics. The best of the best are invited to compete in the Olympics. Elite. Now, in your journal, using our new vocabulary word elite, I want you to come up with your own sentence. Our next vocabulary word is broken up into 3 syllables. So again, show me your 3 fingers. And let's sound it out. Objective. 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 Wonderful. An objective is a noun. Specifically, it's a goal. His objective was to do his best at the race. Objective. Now, in your journals, I want you to come up with your own sentence using the word objective. Our next vocabulary word is broken up into 4 syllables. So show me 4. And let's sound it out. Traditional. 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 Wonderful. And a traditional is an adjective, meaning that if something is traditional, it has been made or done in a certain way for a very long time. For example, it is traditional to wear red, white, and blue on Independence Day. Traditional. Again, in your notebooks, I want you to come up with your own sentence using the word traditional. All right, let's take a look at today's reading objectives. Our learning goal for today: I am learning to monitor my comprehension and make adjustments so that I can evaluate details I've read to determine the key ideas. I'll know I'm successful when I can monitor my comprehension and make adjustments when I don't understand. I can consider the intended purpose of a detail to evaluate its effectiveness, and I can determine what key idea or ideas the details focus on and support. And you will demonstrate your learning by summarizing a text in a way that maintains meaning. Let's get started. Last week, we started our module on inventors at work. This week, we will continue to read about inventors and the circumstances that pushed them to create new inventions. This week, we will read Wheelchair Sports, Hang Glider to Wheeler Dealer, which is an informational text. Authors of informational text organize their ideas using headings and subheadings by grouping main ideas and key details, or by explaining cause and effects. Remember, informational text often includes visuals such as charts, diagrams, graphs, timelines, and maps. Remember, as we read informational text, we keep our thinking jobs in mind. Good readers ask themselves, what is the topic of this text? What do the details in each section teach me about the topic? We'll use our annotation checklist as we go to make sure we are tracking the key ideas the author wants us to understand about the topic. Let's get started. All right, scholars, as you read today, remember, you should pause frequently to check your understanding. Good readers monitor their understanding when they read and use various techniques to clarify or clear up what they want to understand and make sense of new information. Remember, to make sense of your reading, you can use clues from the text. These clues might include your text features, images, or context clues that help you understand new words and what you already know about a topic or experience. Let's get started. Remember, as I think out loud, I want you to listen for the steps that I take and the questions that I ask myself to help me comprehend the text. When I am done reading, we will revisit these questions. Let's begin by reading the title. The title is Wheelchair Sports, Hang Glider to Wheeler Dealer. I'm going to circle the title. I notice there's a photograph of someone hang gliding. I'm going to make a note about the photograph in the margin. I also notice there are quite a few text features on these 2 pages. There's a photograph with a caption on page 41, and more photographs I notice there are quite a few text features on these 2 pages. There's a photograph with a caption on page 48, and more photographs on page 49. The green section on page 49 is a sidebar. A sidebar is text that is separate from the main text on a page. It's often a shorter piece of information that is related to the main topic. Next, I'm going to read paragraph 1 in its entirety to get the gist of what it is talking about. Before you jump off of a mountain, there are a few things you have to do. Usually, Marilyn Hamilton did them all, and she had a great time soaring in California's Sierra Mountain Range under her hang glider. But one day in 1978, she forgot to clip her harness to the glider. She was lucky not to be killed, but the crash broke her back. At the age of 29, Hamilton's life changed forever, but the lives of millions of others would also be changed by that simple mistake. So from what I just read, Marilyn Hamilton had an accident while hang gliding because she forgot to clip her harness to the glider. That was the cause of her accident. So I'm going to underline that detail from my paragraph. What was the effect? Well, because of this, at the age of 29, her life changed forever, but the lives of millions of others would also be changed by that simple mistake. So I'm going to underline that sentence as well. I wonder how her accident changed other people's lives. Let's continue reading paragraphs 2 and 3. Hamilton was never able to walk again. After a stay in the hospital and 3 weeks of therapy, she was given a wheelchair and encouraged to get on with her life. She was eager to do that, but worried about the things she would never be able to do again, like running, biking, squash and racquetball, hiking, and hang gliding. I'm going to underline the word eager. Marilyn sounds very optimistic. I know if I had lost my ability to walk, it would take me a while to come to grips with this new challenge. I'd also probably be angry and depressed. Let's continue reading. Still, Hamilton was determined to live a full and active life and ready to try new things. Regular tennis was out, but a friend got her started on wheelchair tennis. It was frustratingly difficult, and she'd come home from the courts at the end of the day with badly blistered hands. She hated her wheelchair. Its steel frame made it heavy, close to 27 kilograms, or 60 pounds, and hard to maneuver. And it was ugly. Being imprisoned in that wheelchair was the exact opposite of being able to fly in a hang glider. One day, that difference gave her an idea. The author also writes that she was determined. This also tells me a lot about Marilyn. It takes a lot to go through such a tragic event and not give up. She doesn't stop just because she has challenges. I've noticed that although Marilyn was optimistic and determined, it wasn't easy to adapt to playing sports in a wheelchair. I also noticed that she had a problem with the wheelchair. She hated her wheelchair. Its steel frame made it heavy and hard to maneuver. I noticed that the word maneuver is highlighted. This tells me there is a footnote that tells me what this word means. We have also learned about context clues this morning. If there wasn't a footnote provided, what word or phrase could help me to determine the meaning of maneuver? Heavy is one of our clues. The sentence says that the wheelchair was heavy, and I know that Marilyn was trying to play tennis, so I can infer that this word would mean to move. Let's replace the word maneuver with move and see if it makes sense. Its steel frame made it heavy and hard to move. Yes, that makes sense in context. Now, I want you to try with the word imprisoned. What does imprisoned mean based on this clue? Being imprisoned in that wheelchair was the exact opposite of being able to fly in a hang glider. Think about flying and then thinking about being in a wheelchair imprisoned. Right, it sounds like Marilyn is trapped or kind of stuck there, can't go anywhere. I am also going to underline, one day that difference gave her an idea, because I think this might be a clue into how her accident changed the lives of others. Let's continue reading paragraphs 4 and 5. Hamilton talked to two friends who made hang gliders. She persuaded them to build her a new wheelchair using hang glider technology. Ooh, I'm going to underline that sentence right there because this sentence tells me what Marilyn did that possibly changed the lives of others. An aluminum frame made it strong but light. It was half the weight of her regular chair, and she could really move in it. It even looked good. In fact, the only thing that stopped it from being absolutely perfect was that it was blue. She would have preferred yellow. So what I just read is that the new wheelchair was lighter, which also allowed Marilyn to move easier. The appearance also must have been really important to Marilyn because they mentioned in paragraph 3 that the traditional wheelchair was ugly, and then mentioned in paragraph 4 that the new one looked good. I also noticed that she preferred a yellow wheelchair, which is pictured on the other page. Let's continue reading. Hamilton and her friends knew they were onto something. Hamilton couldn't be the only one out there looking for a lighter, speedier chair. They formed a company to make and sell quickie wheelchairs and specialized in meeting the needs of athletes. I'm going to underline this sentence as well because this sentence identifies, it tells me how Marilyn Hamilton changed the lives of millions of people. The company was hugely successful. So again, what was the effect of Marilyn Hamilton's accident? Marilyn helped the lives of others because she formed a company that sold specialized wheelchairs for athletes. Great job reading. Remember, scholars, the green box in the corner of our page is called a sidebar. And the title of our sidebar says Wheelchair Sports. And remember, the sidebar is not part of the main text. So this box is not supporting the idea about Marilyn Hamilton. So it will have its own central idea and details. As I think out loud, I want you to continue listening for the steps that I take and the questions that I'm asking myself to help me comprehend the sidebar. Wheelchair sports. Wheelchair sports can be very competitive and very demanding. Elite wheelchair athletes have an awesome level of fitness, skill, and upper body strength. Wheelchair basketball is very similar to stand-up basketball. Rules are adapted for wheelchairs. For example, only 2 pushes are allowed before a player must dribble the ball. Wheelchair rugby was developed by a group of Canadian athletes whose reduced arm and hand functions didn't allow them to compete equally in basketball. The objective is to carry the ball over the opponent's goal line. I'm going to put a box around the topic of this sidebar, which is wheelchair sports. And I'm also going to underline the rest of the sentence. Can be very competitive and demanding. This sidebar is going to focus on the sport, while the main text is focused on the wheelchair. For example, I heard about wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby. The sidebar explains the 2 examples and provides me information with both. Let's go back to our questions on the side. What is the central idea of the sidebar? Well, we've already determined that it is about wheelchair sports and how they can be very competitive and very demanding. But what about the details that support our central idea? Well, for starters, we read about how wheelchair basketball allows only 2 pushes before a player must dribble the ball. And wheelchair rugby, we read, was developed by a group of Canadian athletes whose reduced arm and hand functions didn't allow them to compete equally in basketball. Those details is what supports our central idea that wheelchair sports can be both competitive and demanding. All right, scholars, let's pause for a moment and think back to what I just did with your thinking job. Remember, I wanted you to pay attention to my questions and the steps that I took as I was reading. How did I monitor my understanding throughout the text? What questions did I ask myself as I was thinking? Remember, some of the techniques that you saw me do was I made notes of ideas and details in my book. I determined the meaning of unknown words, and I looked at images and text features. Great job today. All right, guys, that wraps up today's 5th grade reading lesson. Keep reading. I will see you again next time. Bye.